So what's up, guys? This is Matt Walton with Avoda Talk, or at the real Matt Walton, depending on how you found me. And today I am super excited because we're interviewing Taylor Wadkins today, and he's one of my guys that I've been able to watch grow substantially in a short period of time. And so when I first met Taylor, Taylor was he was just getting out. He was on probation. And just really going through the transition and looking for somewhere that he could grow, and so we ended up and hired him through a program out here. Actually, you weren't a part of the of Hope for Prisoners at that time. You at
No,
that
I
time?
was.
You were okay.
Yeah.
So it was that was how we had found about you was through Hope for Prisoners, and did an interview with him, and man, just I think you guys are gonna see why I ended up hiring him today. But it's just his heart, his desire. He's got leadership capabilities. He is a leader, and he's made tremendous growth. He's come through really the trenches and the gutter, and he's elevated to a point now to where he's a leader, and we're really working with him to become one of our main leaders back there in the shop. And so, without further ado, welcome, Taylor.
Thank you, sir.
So I know I introduced you, but if you want to just introduce yourself and give people just a brief summary of kind of who you used to be and who you were whenever I first met you.
All right, so my name is Taylor Wadkins. I come from a little bit of a rough background. You know, my family was broken a little bit. Dad was abusive, just back and forth between mom and dad, you know. So I struggled as a kid, and that kind of carried over into my adult life. Just made some really bad decisions. So
Yeah, cool. And I think that what's awesome is what y'all are about to hear is again, that was who Taylor was, and I really want to get into like what changed, you know, and specifically from the aspect of like this job, how this job has helped kind of catalyst you into, you know, that new Taylor that we get to see and live with every day.
So before I went to jail in August, I got out in October. I fought my case for 6.5 months, and mentally nothing changed at all within that time. You know, it did to a certain extent, but it wasn't like I was at my full capability. You know, I still felt like I was lost, you know? But my family came back around. My mom and dad weren't talking to me before I went to jail. I went to jail, I fought my case, they were supportive the whole time. It motivated me, it pushed me to continue to try to do better. You know, obviously I was on house arrest, I couldn't do much, so I was still under the law, but when I got out, that support continued, it didn't stop. And I was still kind of involved with, you know, I was involved with a girl I shouldn't have been with. So instantly I dropped that. And I started making decisions to better my life for the long haul, you know, and the support continued. I kind of took it upon myself to go to Hope for Prisoners. And when I did that, I saw life a little different, you know. I saw that there was actually hope and that I had, you know, a future ahead of myself. And, you know, thank goodness to the program, they helped, you know, put that first stepping stone down for me. You know, after that, it was all up to me. So I rocketed and rolled with the program, you know, and I continued to get that support from my mom and dad, and it just boosted me into a whole nother altitude, you know. So.
That's awesome. And I want to highlight too you mentioned not talking to your family, you know, or them not talking with you. And also that goes to like your other family as well outside of your parents.
Yeah.
Because I know there's a lot of people out there that are in that right now, you know. And so, and now, how has that changed?
Man, I have nephews and nieces are back in my life, my brothers and sisters. It's truly a blessing, you know, because it went a whole 180. Everything changed, you know. It took some time, don't get me wrong. It took a lot of time. It took time for me to realize that I have to let God work his magic, you know, because he's going to make sure that it happens. But I had to be patient. I had to reassure my mom, just be patient. Let's just, you know, and I let it be God's will. And sure enough, you know, actually just a month ago about I'm back in my nephews and nieces' lives. My sister's talking to me again, back at the family functions. You know, man, it's beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah, and so now we'll kind of go back just a little bit because some of the things that I've noticed within you is like just your consistency on some things because there's so many people that were born leaders or born with leadership capabilities, but like we have the tendency to use it for the wrong things, and I was certainly one of those. But I feel like from the very first time that you were hired here, the first couple of months, you know, it wasn't like it was bad, but there were some things that were, you know, a little amiss. We had just a few challenges.
Yeah.
But for me, I welcome those things because especially whenever I can see it in somebody that, dude, they've got something special inside of them. You know, it's just a matter of tapping into that. Yeah. So, and that without a doubt is you. And I don't even think we've even begun to scratch the surface with you. I think we're just kind of just getting there, and it's so awesome. So what were some of those things that you were battling at the beginning, and what was that thing that kind of happened inside of you that changed, that ultimately led you to last December whenever you made one of the biggest decisions of your life?
You know, and I hope this doesn't sound silly, but I met somebody that motivated me to be the best version of myself. We had ups and downs, you know, but my wife has motivated me to be the best version of me that I could possibly be. I was already there, I was already striving for that, you know, but she came into my life and I told her what my goals were. Hadn't even interviewed here yet. I was still working at the call center. Like I think 2 weeks out of jail, you know, like I was still trying to acclimate to what was going on around me. And I told her what my goals were. And I kid you not, every single goal that I told her, I completed within a year. So that woman has pushed me to a whole nother level, you know. I saw a life with her and we got married, and I don't know. I mean, I do it for me, you know, but I do it for her and for my family too, you know, because I want to have a firm ground, you know, because, you know, I will be having a baby next January, or this January coming up. So I just want to be the best version of me for my family, you know, for me, for my family, for my wife.
That's awesome. So now, and you're living that on a daily basis. I get to see that and am always encouraged by that. So I just want you to know that like I'm constantly motivated by you in the fact that you show up and you continue to get better. It's awesome to see.
I appreciate that.
So now I would say for me, when I started to really notice a lot of the growth was whenever you got put through the fire post December, whenever we were on a serve day. And you're already trajectorying up, right? You're already climbing that ladder and doing some big things. But then that really was the catalyst to like launch you forward. So what happened?
Well, for 26 years, 27 years, I lived life without really knowing God, right? Really just without the Lord in my life at all. And yeah, we went and did serve day, and I surrendered my life. And, you know, we had those guys prayed over me, you, Donovan, Aaron. And yeah, don't get me wrong, a week after that, man, you know, some turmoil hit my life for sure. And I feel like without God in my life during that time, I probably would have reverted back to my old ways. I had surrendered and I had, you know, really redirected my life again. It definitely impacted the way I was going, you know, because I felt like, I mean, that was a pretty tough situation to deal with, right? So we live and we learn, and I put all my faith into God and I let Him take care of it. And the support that I had to help me stay grounded, it pushed me. And then I continued to dive into the Bible, and I continued to go to church. And what's crazy is I was going to church before that. For about a year. I've been, you know, 2 years now, but a year before I gave my life to the Lord, I was going to church, but I don't think I was understood. I never understood. I never really fully wanted to put my heart into that. And as soon as I did, my life changed again, you know, and burdens and things that I would stress about began to be relieved and, you know, taken away from me. And that definitely helped, move me forward, just that extra step.
It's awesome, man. And it's really cool to see too. Yeah, because when we started talking, and I don't know if you remember, but at the very end of that, I was like, hey, whenever you're ready, and you're like, man, I'm ready, like right now.
Yeah.
And what happened, what I always tell people when they're giving their life to the Lord is nowhere in scriptures that talk about things getting easy, and in fact we see a lot of things get more difficult. But just like Christ, with the joy that was set before him to conquer death and sin and to be seated at the right hand of the Father in heaven, it's kind of like our perspective of things. We have we try and to look at things as Jesus does. We go through some very difficult times. Him being our cornerstone in those times, whenever we get to the position to where you were in or are in. And then we come out of the other side victorious and stronger because we allowed for God to take us through that and to bring us through that and to refine us and sanctify us through that whole entire process. And it's so beautiful. And so before we get into getting to the latter part of your story, I want to ask, how has, coming here with all the structure and kind of the disciplines and some of the demands here to consistently elevate your game, how has that impacted your life? Serve days, prayers, leadership meetings, that kind of stuff.
Well, shout out to the prayer calls on Mondays, because I think that kind of helped me having more of a personal talk about God, right, with a group of guys instead of a church or something that you're still kind of unclear about. It doesn't impact you like it does when you're with a group of guys that you're comfortable with, you know what I mean? And that's what helped push me to that surrendering my life, coming to work every day and the motivation behind, okay, we got a blueprint right here that has kind of funky writing on it. We can't really read it, but we got to figure it out, like the job demanded that I figured it out, so with coming to work and having challenges like that, it helps my family life. It helps me be a better husband at home, because now I'm thinking about the next step. I go home and I clean the dishes, or I'm cooking. I'm probably gonna wash this pan right now, so I don't gotta do it later. It just kind of, it's a foundation, and it's continued to get stronger because of this place, so very grateful.
That's awesome, man. So one of the things that we're kind of going through now is, Taylor and I will meet every 3 weeks, and kind of go through just some life stuff, some leadership stuff, and just kind of some discipleship stuff. And you had made a comment to me one time before, and this is whenever I'd first hired you, and there was just some friction with a few different things. And I remember I pulled you into the office, and you were like, I don't remember your exact words. You may remember it better than I do, but I am not used to a boss having these kind of conversations with like the owner of a company, you know? And I don't remember my exact response, but it was something along the lines of like, yeah, it's just the way that we operate, man, because I care so much about you, the individual, and I want to see you thrive, even if that means like, we may have a little bit of friction right now, but for the better good. So just speak on that for a minute.
Yeah, we bumped heads. I think it was like my second month here, and I felt like I was doing good. Matt had other expectations, and I wasn't meeting those expectations. And in my head, I thought I was doing great, But we bumped heads on that, and I am grateful for that that clash that we had for a second, because I think it definitely built our relationship a little bit. It made me not afraid to speak my mind. So if I have something I feel like is necessary to say, I'm gonna say it, So, man, it was a time period, right? And it passed, and we got past it, and I'm grateful that we were able to get past it, and I'm grateful that you put time into my life. I clock out and you're still invested in me. And that means the world to me, because I am taking the things that we talk about with that hour after work, and I take them home and I talk to my wife about them. I talk to my mom and dad about them, and it's changing a lot of things. The way I treat my wife impacts my mom and dad, so everything that I'm carrying from here to home is impacting my whole family. It really is. Because my mom told me this. She says, Taylor, because of the way you treat Jessica, it's helped your dad fix some of the things that he knows that he's doing wrong, right? Or that he can improve on. And it's making their relationship better. So that right there is a blessing, because I love my mom and dad, with all my heart. Those are my best friends. So I'm super grateful that, the things that we talk about and we discuss has such an impact that it's now really impacting my family.
It's awesome, man. It's really cool to see, because he's not just using words, he's not just talking. I get to see this lived out on a day-to-day basis, and so it's really, really cool. Taylor's one that has taken the possibility of this life and really ran with it, and I think the ceiling has started to be peeled back a little bit now. I think that you're starting to really understand and see things the way that I see you, and really it's the way that the Lord, I believe that Jesus sees you and your capabilities and what you have the ability to do. We so many times we have a natural ability, but we refuse to do all the steps in between that natural ability and the final result in order to get better along the way. So many people, it's easy for us to stay disciplined during the 8 hours while we're at the shop, but as soon as we leave, we lose all of that, and it comes unraveled to where we find ourselves climbing this uphill battle on a day-to-day basis because we climbed up it, we reached it during the day, we stayed disciplined, and then we fell back down in the evening time. And it's not to say that doesn't happen every now and again, right? I mean, we're human beings. We're always trying to get better, and sometimes we slip up a little bit. But I don't even have to know everything that you do. Like, you're doing all of those things, and so it's awesome. When we meet, there's always a little bit of homework involved, and you always come back with hey, here's this, that, and the other, and having some comments about what God's doing in your life at that moment. So it's really awesome to see that, and I feel like it's important because so many people getting out of prison, or maybe they've been out for a while and they're struggling to find their footing, or maybe they're going through some challenging times. Your story is inspirational because it's like, man, I can go through all of this, being locked up, being struggling with addiction, fighting cases, stuff with family, and still come out on top and still lead people. But one of the best decisions that you made was what happened in December and surrendering your life to the Lord, because then that's the foundation for literally everything that you have going on and will have going on. So what is, just a couple more things I want to talk about, like looking ahead. What are you specifically working on now that you hadn't been working on in the past that's going to put you where you believe that you could be in life?
Well, I'm working on being a dad, right? So that definitely is going to push me to a whole nother level. I already know, and just staying grounded, knowing what I want, which is I have a great life right now. And I do want to touch on this for a second. Before, I made hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? From the age of 18 till I went to jail. And I have never been more happy in my life than right now. And I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars, but I'm more happy right now and more content and at peace than I've ever been in my entire life, and I'm super, super, super thankful that God gave me a second chance. I was definitely headed in the wrong direction. My mom told me that she thought I was gonna end up dead or in jail, and I'm grateful I ended up in jail, but that was my second chance right there. And it's just motivated me to really push forward and understand that there's more to life than selling drugs, And
so on that note, how would you, because there's kids right now, men right now, women that are just getting out, and maybe they've been out for a little while and they're really struggling, you know? What do you say to them?
Man, press into the Bible. Press into the Bible, press into prayer. And if that's not your forte, always remember that things can be worse, right? Because they can be worse. Then find something that you love to do and press into that and explore that. Try to find some motivation in your life to keep you going. Not to fall back, not to, fall short, just to keep going ahead. And you'll find the light at the end of the tunnel.
Awesome, man. And my encouragement on the backside of that is, man, if you find somebody, it doesn't always work out like this, but if somebody believes in you, wants to mentor, disciple you, and come alongside you, your response should be, let me do everything that I can or that is asked of me so that I can continue going to those next levels. And obviously that individual that does that needs to have what you want, or some version of what you want, because it's hard to follow behind somebody that doesn't. So maybe you have to find somebody, or maybe that person will find you, but do it. Do what they ask, do what they ask, do the advice that they give you, because if you can find that right person, or maybe they found you, that really cares about you as a human being, you get cheat codes in there that will launch you into a whole nother dimension of life. And Taylor's done that. So I'm not telling Taylor what to do here. Taylor does that. I mean, we talk pretty consistently, but for sure, every 3 weeks, and there's always advice that's given, and he always, even the next day, it's like that one day we were talking about budgeting, and you came back the next day yeah, I went home and told my family all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you got put that in motion. So that right there is awesome. And that's what sets you apart, because so many people, they fall into an opportunity. Maybe they're living in an answered prayer, but because they refuse to continue to go to the next level, they stay stuck at some things, and that's not you. So encouragement, man. This is kind of a doubling up on the last question I asked you, but just some encouragement. What final thoughts, I guess I would sum it up with.
I would just say, just find motivation in something. Just find motivation in something and continue to look for support from somebody, whether that is a mentor or, a pastor, or just somebody that can help elevate so that you don't fall back into the old lifestyle that you're trying to get away from.
We're going to do a part 2 of this. Absolutely. We're going to get in a little bit deeper on some things. Really, I think people need to hear your story. I want to know more about you and more about your story as well. So we'll definitely do a part 2. But if y'all got any value out of this, please like, share, subscribe, download it if you're on a podcast, and comment FYP if you're on Instagram or TikTok, as this will help curate your feed. And please, again, comment, like, download, whatever it is, if this has made an impact in your life, because we're going to keep doing this. But thank you, Taylor.
Thank you, sir.
Man, I'm encouraged by you. Tune in next week. Thank you, guys.